Extreme temperatures, wildfires, drought and flooding have all been made worse by the last 8 years being the hottest on record, according to the World Meteorological Organization.
The levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide and methane hit all-time highs in 2021. The city has experienced the equivalent of a year's average rainfall in just 3 days.
For the last few years, we have seen a surge in natural disasters across the world, with floods, cyclones and heat waves taking hundreds of lives each year. Just look at Pakistan. Since June 2022, around 1,600 people lost their lives due to the flood, which was caused by heavier than usual monsoon rains. In 2018, South Africa's risk of day zero captivated the world's attention. Day zero is a situation when all the taps run dry and no meaningful amount of water can be extracted. And India is also not an exception to these kinds of threats. According to the 2021 report published by the National Institute of Disaster Management, from 1995 to 2020, India experienced 1,058 climate-related disasters, including floods, heat waves, droughts, cold waves and cyclones. As per the report, floods accounted for 33% of these disasters, followed by heat waves 24%, droughts 22%, cold waves 16% and cyclones 5%. Tragically, over 104,000 lives were lost due to climate disasters during this period, with cyclones accounting for 48% of the total deaths, heat waves at 26%, floods at 18% and cold waves at 8%. Climate change is real and it is happening every day. But the good news is, two of the biggest names in the Indian business world, Gautam Adani and Mukesh Ambani, have entered in a race to fight the climate change with scores of investment in green energy. So in this video, we will try to understand what is climate change and its reasons, why the world leaders are counting on India to fight climate change, and more importantly, how Mukesh Ambani and Gautam Adani are preparing India to fight this challenge. According to the United Nations, climate change refers to long-term changes in temperatures and weather patterns. You may have noticed that whenever there is a discussion regarding climate change, there will be a high emphasis on carbon dioxide, and we often hear the term called greenhouse gases. So, before we dive deeper, we'll first explore the concept of greenhouse gases and their role in climate change. Gases such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane and ozone are known as greenhouse gases. They are naturally present in Earth's atmosphere and play a significant role in maintaining the Earth's temperature of 15 degrees Celsius, making it suitable for life. Here's the science behind it. Earth receives heat energy from the sun, and some of that heat is absorbed by land, oceans and atmosphere. This heat is then radiated back in the form of infrared light. Some of this infrared light escapes into space, but some of those, especially long infrared lights, are absorbed by greenhouse gases. Without these greenhouse gases, our planet's temperature would be a frigid -18 degrees Celsius, which is far too cold for most forms of life to survive. Unfortunately, human activities like the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation and livestock farming have significantly increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere. This means that more and more heat is being trapped, leading to rising global temperatures. In fact, the concentration of these gases has reached levels never seen before in human history. Of all the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide is the biggest contributor to total emissions. In 2020, global carbon dioxide emissions hit a staggering 35 gigaton, accounting for roughly 75% of overall greenhouse gas emissions. Methane and nitrous oxide are also significant contributors, making up 17.3% and 6.2% of emissions respectively. According to the World Meteorological Organization, Earth's average temperature is now 1.2 degrees Celsius warmer than it was before the Industrial Revolution in the late 1800s. Climate scientists have warned that if the Earth's temperature rises beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius, the result could be very harmful to living beings and the natural ecosystem. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, the sea level will increase by 10 to 30 inches, which will put more than 10 million people at risk of coastal storms and flooding. Up to 90% of all coral reefs could die out, and about 7% of Earth's land area could shift into new biome, with grasslands turning to desert and tundra turning to the forest. So, to avoid this catastrophic disaster, 194 countries formed a pact called Paris Agreement in 2015. and its major goal is to keep the global temperature increase well below 2 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels and continue efforts to limit to 1.5 degrees Celsius. To achieve this lofty target, every member country has set its own carbon reduction targets. India, for instance, has announced 5 main commitments called Panchamrit, and they are: achieve the target of net zero emissions by 2070, expand the energy capacity not coming from fossil fuels to 500 gigawatt by 2030, cut the carbon intensity of an economy by 45% by 2030, draw half of its energy requirement from renewable sources by 2030, and cut 1 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions from the amount projected to the year 2030. India is the biggest emitter of carbon dioxide behind China and the US. In 2021, India accounted for roughly 7% of global carbon emissions. Since 1990, its carbon emissions have increased by more than 300% and reached a record high of 2.56 billion metric ton in 2019. The biggest emitter of carbon dioxide in India is coal. It is because coal is used as the primary source of electricity and it accounts for roughly 70% of India's electricity supply. In 2020, burning coal produced roughly 1.6 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide, which was almost 70% of India's total emissions that year. This trend is expected to continue as India's economy grows. Despite this reliance on coal, many Indians are concerned about global warming. In 2015, a survey report conducted by the Pew Research Center found that 75% of Indians were very worried about this issue. And in 2017, another survey revealed that 47% considered climate change to be a major threat, second only to the threat of ISIS. As the third biggest emitter of carbon emissions, it is very crucial for India and the world that India cut back its greenhouse gas emissions to meet the target of the Paris Agreement. India's commitment to fighting climate change will depend in part on the actions of Gautam Adani and Mukesh Ambani, two of India's richest individuals. Adani and Ambani, who previously had limited business dealings with each other, have recently diversified their interest to include green or renewable energy, which is derived from sustainable sources like sunlight and wind. There is a strong motivation for these billionaires to push for green energy. Adani is the largest thermal power producer in India with an installed capacity of 12,450 megawatt and operates 7 coal power plants in the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Karnataka, and Chhattisgarh. Adani Group recently became India's second largest cement maker through a recent $10.5 billion acquisition of Holcim, owner of ACC and Ambuja Cements. Meanwhile, Ambani's Reliance Group owns the world's largest oil refinery in Gujarat and generates much of its profit from the fossil fuel intensive oil refining business. All three industries, coal power plants, cement industry, and oil refinery, are diverse, but they share a common issue, that is greenhouse gas emissions. Hence, the success of Narendra Modi's government to meet the ambitious target of net zero emissions by 2070 depends on how quickly Adani and Ambani transform their businesses to rely more on green energy. Now let's see how these two billionaires are playing their cards in this regard. Among these two billionaires, Gautam Adani had an early start in the green energy business when he founded Adani Green Energy Limited in 2015. Today, Adani Green Energy operates one of the largest solar photovoltaic plants in the world with a capacity of 648 megawatt. It has a total portfolio of 20,434 megawatt, which it generates from the combination of solar and wind farms. The company has planned to generate 25 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2025 and is on a mission to become the world's largest renewable energy player by 2030. Part of the renewable energy produced by Adani Green Energy will be used to power its sister concern also. Adani Group has planned to make Adani ports a net zero carbon emitter by 2025 and power all its data centers with renewable energy by 2030. To expand the footprint of its green energy business, Adani Group has also signed a joint venture agreement with the government of Rajasthan to set up a 10,000 megawatt solar park. The proposed park will command an investment of Rs 60,000 crores and will include a giant manufacturing unit for solar modules, parts and equipments, which will make it the largest integrated facility in India. In 2021, Adani Green Energy made headlines for acquiring SB Energy Holdings Limited for $3.5 billion, making it the biggest acquisition in the India's renewable energy sector. Gautam Adani has announced that he plans to invest at least $70 billion in clean energy by 2030, which includes developing 3 gigafactories for manufacturing solar modules, wind turbines and hydrogen electrolyzers. Now let's talk about Mukesh Ambani and his initiatives in green energy. His Reliance Group operates the world's largest oil refinery in the world, and an oil refinery is among the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. To meet the national goal of net zero emissions by 2070 set by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Reliance Group has set an ambitious target to become a net carbon zero company by 2035. This means that the oil refinery and all the businesses owned by the Reliance Group should be powered by renewable energy. Mukesh Ambani has made it clear that it is the renewable energy sector that will outperform all its existing businesses in the next 5 to 7 years. During last year's general meeting of Reliance Industries, Mukesh Ambani announced plans to develop the Dhirubhai Ambani Green Energy Giga Complex on 5,000 acres in Jamnagar, Gujarat with an investment of $10 billion over 3 years. The Giga Complex will house 4 gigafactories which will include an integrated solar photovoltaic modules factory, an advanced energy storage factory, an electrolyzer factory for the production of green hydrogen, and a fuel cell factory for converting hydrogen into motive and stationary power. Mukesh Ambani also announced plans for a 5th gigafactory of power electronic plants which will link up new energy systems. Interestingly, Adani Group announced its 3 gigafactories right after Ambani announced his plans for the 5th gigafactory, signaling some serious competition between the two groups. Ambani also has huge plans for solar energy. Mukesh Ambani has plans to set up a 20 gigawatt of solar generation capacity by 2025 and expand that capacity to 100 gigawatt by 2030. To strengthen its position in the green energy sector, Reliance Industries has also acquired or invested in companies operating in this sector. Reliance Group spent around $771 million to purchase REC Solar Holdings, acquired a 40% stake in Sterling and Wilson Renewable Energy for $370 million, and invested $50 million in the clean energy battery maker Ambani. Similar to Adani Group, Reliance Industries has also signed an MOU with the government of Gujarat to invest over $80 billion in green projects. After solar and gigafactories project, let's talk about green hydrogen, which has a very crucial role in helping countries meet the target of net zero emissions. The development of green hydrogen in one such area where the interest of these two billionaires highly intersects. Hydrogen is used as a major source of energy in industrial sectors such as the steel and cement industry, which are among the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. It is also used to make the fertilizers like ammonia. But right now, the most common form of hydrogen used in these sectors is grey hydrogen, which is produced from fossil fuels.
Grey hydrogen accounts for 3/4 of all hydrogen production in the world and is extracted from natural gas via a method known as steam methane reforming. A downside to both these processes is that they emit large amounts of CO2.
Green hydrogen, on the other hand, is produced using a process called electrolysis of water. And if that process is powered by electricity produced from wind, solar or water, the produced hydrogen is called green hydrogen. The use of green hydrogen not only helps to decarbonize the energy-intensive industries, but it can also be used as a source of fuel to power cars and trucks. Hence, it is inevitable for countries to focus on the development and use of green hydrogen to meet the ambitious target of net zero emissions. For the development of green hydrogen, Gautam Adani has committed to invest $50 billion over the next 10 years in green hydrogen and its ecosystem. Initially, the group will develop a green hydrogen production capacity of 1 million tons per annum before 2030. And to create the world's largest green hydrogen ecosystem, Adani Group has entered into a partnership with the energy supermajor Total Energies of France. Likewise, Mukesh Ambani has also huge plans in this regard. Reliance Industries is already the world's largest producer of grey hydrogen, and Ambani has said that his companies will start transitioning to green hydrogen by 2025. This transition is very crucial to meet the net zero emissions. For green hydrogen, Reliance Group has partnered with US-based Chart Industries to set up an alliance to commercialize hydrogen technology and develop its supply chain. It has also partnered with a Denmark company called Stysal to use its latest electrolyzer technology, which can reduce the cost of producing green hydrogen from water. The global demand for green hydrogen is expected to reach 180 million metric tons by 2030, and India alone aims to produce 5 million tons of that total demand. For it to happen, Gautam Adani and Mukesh Ambani will spearhead the hydrogen movement to make India a major player in the green hydrogen supply chain. As the race for green energy dominance heats up in India, two titans emerge, Adani and Ambani. While the competition is fierce, one thing is for sure, that they are in a position to lead the charge toward a greener future, not just for India but for the entire world. With their immense resources and bold ambitions, these two moguls are set to make India a global hub for green energy, just as the Gulf countries have done for fossil fuels.
This much for in this topic. If you think that this video has added something valuable to your learnings, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss a future content in similar topic like this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.